The sun had already slipped behind the hills when May pushed open the creaking wooden door of Uncle Juan's cottage. The air smelled of wet earth and the last smoke from the rice straw fire. She was 19, small-boned, skin still holding the glow of city lights she had left behind only a month ago, sent by her mother to learn the old ways before university began again. Juan was 61, shoulders bent from decades of bending over seedlings, hands rough as the bark of the banyan tree that shaded his yard. His wife had died 8 rains ago. The house had been quiet ever since. May brought him dinner every evening, steamed fish, a bowl of rice, pickled mustard greens, because her grandmother insisted a lone man should not eat cold food. At first they spoke only of weather and the height of the water in the paddies. Then one night the rain came hard, drumming on the tin roof like 1,000 fingers, and she stayed. Juan lit the single kerosene lamp. Its gold light slid over the bamboo walls and over May's bare arms as she set the plates down. She wore an old cotton dress, faded blue, hem damp from the walk across the field. When she leaned forward, the cloth clung to the small of her back. Juan's eyes followed the line of her spine longer than he meant to. He felt ashamed, then did not. "Uncle," she said softly, using the word all village girls used for older men, "your hands are cold." She took one of his rough palms between her soft ones and rubbed warmth into it. The simple kindness cracked something inside him that had been sealed for years. He did not pull away. Later, when the rain eased into a whisper, she rested her head against his shoulder the way a child might, except she was no child. He smelled the faint sweetness of the wild jasmine she tucked behind her ear each morning. His arms circled her without thinking. She turned her face up. Her lips brushed the salt and sun skin of his throat. "May." His voice was gravel and apology. She answered by kissing the corner of his mouth, shy at first, then certain. The lamp flickered. Shadows danced over the low wooden bed in the corner. He lifted her easily, she weighed almost nothing, and laid her down on the thin mattress that still carried the scent of sun-dried cotton. His fingers, trembling only a little, undid the tiny cloth buttons of her dress one by one, as though unwrapping something sacred that might break. Moonlight through the slats painted silver bars across her breasts, small and perfect, rising with each quick breath. She reached for the buttons of his old shirt, pushing it off shoulders that had carried water and grief for decades. The skin beneath was darker, mapped with the pale scars of leeches and sickle nicks. She kissed every mark slowly, as if reading a history she wanted to memorize. When he entered her, it was with the same deliberate care he used when planting rice. Slow, deep, reverent of the earth that must receive the seed. She made a small sound, half sigh, half sob, and wrapped her legs around his hips. The cottage was quiet except for their breathing and the soft, wet rhythm of the paddies outside, frogs singing their endless love song. He moved like a man who had forgotten he still owned a body, rediscovering it through hers. She answered every thrust with a lift of her hips, fingers digging into the muscle of his back, whispering his name. Not uncle, just Juan, like a secret she had waited all summer to speak aloud. After, they lay tangled under a single thin blanket. Fireflies drifted in through the open window and blinked above them like slow green stars. His hand rested on the curve of her waist. Her head fit perfectly beneath his chin. Neither spoke of tomorrow or sin or the 39 years between them. There was only the warm night, the smell of rice flowers, and the quiet certainty that some hungers are older than shame. Outside, the moon hung low and full over the endless green, watching over the small cottage where an old man and a young girl had, for one still night, made the world simple again. 2 bodies, one heart beating against another, and the ancient countryside holding them both without judgment. Dawn came gently, the way it does in the paddies. First a pale graying of the sky, then a slow spill of rose-gold light across the water. The frogs had quieted. A single kingfisher rattled overhead and was gone. Juan woke before May. For a moment he lay still, afraid to move, afraid the night had been a dream his old heart had invented. But her warmth was real against his chest, one slender leg thrown across his thigh. Her breath soft on the hollow of his throat. Her hair had come undone in the night, Black strands spilled over his arm like spilled ink. He watched the slow rise and fall of her shoulder and felt something vast and terrifying open inside him, too large for a man who had spent 61 years believing desire was finished with him. He slipped from the bed without waking her, bare feet silent on the packed earth floor. Outside, the air was cool and smelled of dew on young rice. He filled the kettle from the rain barrel, set it on the clay stove, and started the fire with the same steady patience he used for everything. His body ached in unfamiliar places. His mouth tasted of her skin. He felt ridiculous and alive. When he came back inside with 2 cups of weak tea, May was sitting up, blanket clutched to her breasts, eyes wide and suddenly shy. The morning light was merciless on her face. No city makeup, only faint shadows under her eyes and a small red mark on her collarbone where his mouth had lingered too long. She looked at him, then down at the blanket, cheeks burning. "I should go home before grandmother wakes." Juan set the cups on the low table. His voice came out rough. "Drink first." She obeyed, wrapping both hands around the cup as though it might steady her. Steam curled between them. Neither knew where to look. Finally she whispered, "Are you sorry?" They did not speak much. Words had become dangerous. They might break what little time remained. Instead they walked the narrow buns between the fields as the sun sank, her small hand inside his large one, both of them barefoot in the warm mud. Fireflies rose around them like sparks from an unseen fire. When they reached the farthest paddy, the one beneath the old banyan, she stopped. "I will come back," she said. Sounded like a prayer. Juan only nodded. He had learned long ago that the land keeps its own counsel. Promises spoken aloud often wilt before harvest. They made love one last time on the porch as night folded over them, slow and almost silent, mouths tasting of salt and goodbye. Afterward she rested her cheek against his heart and listened to it beat the way she had listened to the sea in a shell when she was small, something vast and temporary inside something small and fragile. Later, when the moon was high and white, she stood. He watched her walk away down the path, dress glowing faintly, until she was only a flicker between the dark water and darker sky. She did not look back. If she had, she might never have left. Juan stayed on the porch until dawn. The rice whispered in the breeze. Somewhere a night bird called once and was still. Years passed. The cottage roof sagged a little more each rainy season. Juan's hands grew slower. The scars on his shoulders faded to silver. He never took another woman. People said it was because he mourned his wife. Only the banyan tree and the white egrets knew different. Then one late autumn afternoon, when the paddies lay stripped and bare, a young woman stepped off the bus at the village edge. She wore city clothes now, hair cut short, but the way she walked, light, quick, unafraid of mud, was unmistakable. Juan was burning rice stubble in the far field. He straightened, one hand pressed to the ache in his back, and saw her coming along the bund. For a moment the smoke blurred everything. He thought his eyes were tricking him. She stopped a few paces away. The wind lifted her shorter hair the way it once lifted the long strands he used to wrap around his fingers. "I told you I would come back," she said, voice steady, older but still hers. Behind her the field smoldered gently, thin columns of smoke rising into the pale sky like prayers finally answered after a lifetime of waiting. Juan dropped the box of matches. They made no sound falling into the ash. He opened his arms. She walked straight into them, pressed her face against the same place on his chest she had claimed all those years ago, and felt the old heart beneath the worn shirt still beating. Slower now but strong, stubborn, unchanged. The banyan leaves rustled overhead. The egrets wheeled once in perfect silence and flew west, carrying the last light of the day on their wings. Fade to black.